Second Corinthians, let's read chapter 11. Are you following me, brethren? Paul says in verse 23, are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I am more. In labors more abundant. In stripes above measure. In prison have been there more frequent. In deaths often. Of the Jews 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. Thrice I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. He wasn't talking about powder. Stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day I've been in the deep. A lot of people actually believe that they took Paul and threw him inside water. Verse 26, in journeyings often, in perils of waters, in perils of robbers, in perils of my own countrymen, in perils by the hidden, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren, in weariness and painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often. The fastings here is not the one he wanted to do. In cold and in nakedness. Everybody read verse 28. Beside those things that are without, that which comes upon me daily is the what? The care for the churches. So Paul couldn't stay. He's touched Ephesus, but the other churches were in his heart. He knew he needed to touch those churches. But it is very interesting, brethren, and this is what the word of God wants us to know, that Timothy had grown to the level where, as much as Paul was concerned about the church of the Ephesus, he says, I urge you, I begged you to abide still. What was happening was that as Paul was about to move, Timothy says, I'm going to go with you. But Paul says, you can't go. Stay here still. Stay longer. He says, I urge you still. I charge you. And I gave you a charge. In 1 Timothy chapter 1, for the sake of time, we would have looked at other translations. This charge that was given to Timothy, or command that was given to Timothy, you see it for those who are writing. You see it in 1 Timothy 1:3. You see it in 1 Timothy 5:7. You see it in 1 Timothy 6:13. You see it in 1 Timothy 6:17. You see it in 1 Timothy 1:5. The word there is paragalia. You see it in 1 Timothy 1:18. You see it in 1 Timothy 4, verse number 4. You see it in 1 Timothy 6:2. You see it in 1 Timothy 5:21. You'll also see it in 2 Timothy 2:14 and 2 Timothy 4:1. He says, this charge I give you. Do you think you can come to the point where we can command things in your hand? Where we can put things in charge in your hands? He says, this charge I gave you, my son. Something was put in his charge. I want to ask you, can I put something in your charge for 3 months and come back and make it the same? Is it possible that we can put a department in your hand and when we come back it is still intact? Without you missing out, without nothing getting lost. This charge I gave you, my son Timothy, that you abide still. Timothy wants to go. He says, no, you've been going everywhere with me, but you know what? I want you to stay here at Ephesus. When I went into Macedonia, that you will be able to do what necessarily only me could have done. While Timothy stayed there, Bible theologians believe that because of the nature of work that Paul left him, that he kept writing Paul and asking Paul to release him. So 1 Timothy becomes Paul's response to those letters. And I will show you several reasons why Timothy wanted to leave. Timothy, by what the Bible has told us in 2 Timothy 1:7, was a little bit timid. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 11 and 12, was a young man. Paul will write him and say, let no man despise your youth. Timothy, by inclination, was a boy who had stomach problem. So you can imagine staying in a place like Ephesus where there were wolves, and then you also have issues with your own health. So Timothy kept requesting that, sir, I want to live here. Are there times when you're going to be given assignments you don't like? There are times when you're going to be given assignments that you don't naturally feel like. There are times when you're going to be given assignments where you don't naturally want to adopt to. This was Timothy. So I want you to look at 1 Timothy chapter number 3. We're going to read verse number 14. So 1 Timothy was Paul's response to Timothy's beckoning and request that he be released from where he was. Are you all there, brethren? 1 Timothy 3:14. So when he wrote to him, what did he say to him? These things write I unto you, hoping to come unto you shortly. In other words, wait, I'm coming back. But sir, I want to live here. This place is not the best. He said, wait, I'm going to come back to you. And I'm not going to take time. Why did he say shortly? Because the boy's been begging to be relieved. Go to 1 Timothy 4:13. Paul is responding to his requests. And that is why the word urged was used. 1 Timothy 4:13. Paul says to him, are you there? Till I come, give attendance to what? Reading. Meaning Paul was going to come back and join him there. What was he crying about? Hey, I don't like this work. They make me come every Sunday. They want me to come here 7:30. Oh, it's draining my pocket. I don't have taxi fare to come. Paul says, stay there. Stay there. He gave him charge, knowing fully well that the boy in himself was feeling insecure. The boy himself was looking at how unable he was to accomplish the work. If you leave the boy, lily-livered, he wants to run away. Paul says, stay there. The word that was used in 1 Timothy 1:3, he said, I urged you. I begged you. It is the word you use when you're saying to somebody, I pray you. It's the word that you can use for I desired you. I summoned you. I used entreaty. I encourage you. Timothy wants to go and say, I encourage you to stay still. And guess what he called him in verse 2? He said, my son, my own son. The New King James Version, and I believe the NIV. Let's put it on the screen. 1 Timothy 1:2. Are you following something here? Look at the progression. He says in 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 2, to Timothy, my true son, in the faith. Can I call you my true son? You know, I was meditating the other day, and one of the scriptures that came to my mind was where David was asking God to deliver him from strange children. There are children and there are children. Children who have secrets. Children who have secrets from their father. Children who operate not in the spirit of their daddy. If their daddy is coming, they hide. When daddy comes, they just stand like this. He said, you're a true son. We are asking God for true sons. And may you become a true son. I didn't hear a believing amen. He said, Timothy, my true son, in the faith. When Paul says, you are my true son, he's making a difference between those who are true and those who are illegitimate. He says, some are true, you are a true one. Not the one that just speaks with the mouth, but the heart is far. He says, you're a legitimate child. And you see what, Timothy? I can see you possess all the rights and privileges of membership in the family. You have a right to inherit what your daddy have. He says to him, when I call you a true son, it means I am telling you I have accepted you wholeheartedly. He says, you're a true son, Timothy. You are genuine. You're not like one of the many. Why do you say that? He will say that because Timothy has proven himself true. You will be given a chance to prove yourself true, brethren. And may you pass the test. May you not draw back. May we never, ever fail the confidence of our fathers in the faith. You can't send everybody. Not everybody can be asked to represent you. He says, but Timothy, I want you to know you're a true son. And where I read in chapter 1 verse 3, he said, I'm urging you, means I'm requesting you, Timothy, to know that I have confidence in you. When he says, I urge you, the language actually says, I have confidence in you, Timothy, that you will not fail. He knew the state of that church, what it was like, but he said, I am confident you can handle it. You see, it takes a father to look at you and say, I'm confident you can handle it. I know you can handle it. I know you can deal with it. It's not everybody. So if you have come to the point where something is put in your charge, I want you to know, don't disappoint the confidence we have in you. We have confidence in you. By the grace of God, you'll be given an office. You'll be given charge of something. We have confidence that you can do it. So you need to see yourself in that light. Oh, it's a difficult place to be. Paul knows that there will be wolves. But he says, I urge you, I requested nobody else but you. Stay here. And I want us to do a little bit of Bible study. So Timothy is in a church to function on behalf of Paul. He will be Paul's representative. He will be doing it like Paul would do it. His function in Ephesus was to represent Paul. Paul is no longer there. But I want you to see the nature of the kind of functions, assignments, duties, people, situation, position that he's obeying Paul will put him. Let's go first to 1 Timothy 1 verse 6. 1 Timothy 1 6. So Paul is going to, Timothy is going to be in a church. If it is Paul, that's not the problem. Paul said he fought with beasts of Ephesus. But Timothy says, it is you that fought them, not me. Come and see the people I am with. 1 Timothy 1. Remember my message. Minister, you can't dodge them. You feel like running away. Me, I don't like trouble. Somebody asked me one time. He said, you stay with the same thing over and over and over again. The same people you've been preaching to, they may not have changed, but you're with them. Oh yeah, that's your lot. 1 Timothy 1 6. Let's see the kind of people that Paul left Timothy with in Ephesus. Verse 6. Verse 5, he said, now the end of commandment is love out of a pure heart, and of a good conscience, and of faith unfeigned. Everybody, verse 6, from which, now, notice this, from which, some having what? Swerved, they have turned aside unto vain. So you are going to stay with people who have turned away. People who have left what we believe in. People who don't have the same aim you that a true brother, a true sister have. As you are put in charge, you're going to see them. They don't have an aim of winning souls. They don't have an aim of growing the church. Your aim is to make sure that what is put in your hand doesn't die, but that's not their aim. Their aim is to aggrandize their own personal identity. Timothy, you will be with such people. And Timothy doesn't like it. Give me people who have the same aim like me, then the church will run. You can't dodge such people. Your heart is to make sure that what your daddy left in your hand would be alive. That's not their bother. That's not their care. If there is anything, they want to make merchandise of the people in church. 6:21. Timothy is going to hang in there. Look at your name and say, hang in there. 6:21. I read verse 20 and 21. Everybody read. O Timothy, keep that which is committed into your trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and opposition of science falsely so called. Verse 21, which some professing have what? Erred concerning the... You are going to, like Timothy, meet people who have already left the faith. You look at them like this. What they are saying, what they are doing, it is completely obvious they have erred from the faith. The things they want to teach, the things they want to say are opposition of science, so-called. But look at your neighbor and say, you can't dodge them. You can't dodge them. Don't call me on the phone and say, Daddy, please can you post me to another branch, another installation. There is no posting. Because you have answered you now. 1 Timothy 1:19. Who is in the same church with Timothy? 1 Timothy 1:19. Are you still here with me? Verse 19. Verse 18, I read, this charge I commit unto you, son Timothy, according to the prophecies which went before you on, that you might war a good warfare, holding faith and a good conscience. Somebody say faith and a good conscience, which some, having put away concerning faith, have made what? Shipwreck. What does it look like to be in the same place with brethren whose faith are still sound? But think about it when you are in the same place with people who have erred from the faith. They have left the faith. They've lost good conscience. They call black white. You're trying to correct them. They say, look, there's nothing wrong with me. You want to go mad. They are doing what is completely wrong, and they are looking into your eyes to say, what can you do about it? They have lost conscience. They have lost faith. What ordinarily should make them keep awake doesn't keep them awake, because there is no more conscience. You know, one of the things the law of conscience does to you is it talks to you before anybody talks to you. But they have lost conscience. They are in error, and they can't even see it. Timothy, you have to hang in there with these people. What I wrote here is that they have put away faith, they have put away a good conscience, and you know what? They make shipwreck people's faith. But you can't dodge them. You can't say, okay, I'm going to divide. No, you will be with them doing the charge. 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7. The Bible says you're going to meet people in the same place where you've been left in charge. Everybody read verse 7. Desiring to be teachers of the law, understanding neither what they say, nor whereof they want to preach, but they don't even know what they want to preach. And they'll be crying, you don't give them microphone. Look at your neighbor and say, you can't dodge them. They want to teach. They want to say what they don't even understand. I wish all these people would be taken away. People who, though they are inexperienced, they are untaught, they are intellectually confused in their own life. You know, there was a young boy, he's confused. And then he goes on the internet and he says he's a coach. His own life he can't even manage. He can't even manage his own life. He says he's a life coach. And you know, and people are gullible. People fall for that. Intellectually confused. People who have not been able to sit down with one woman says they are marriage counselors. What are you going to counsel people? Meanwhile, he comes to church and says, when are you going to make seminar? And then I'll be the one to speak on marriage. Look at your neighbor and say, you have charge. Timothy, I'm putting you in charge. Tell them not to teach no other doctrine. Tell them not to give heed to fables and endless genealogies. Things that will bring more questions than people getting comforted and edified. But they will act like they know what to do. And guess what? Naturally, Timothy by disposition doesn't want this kind of thing. He says, sir, can I leave? Paul says, you're not leaving. You will abide still there. Is it making sense to you? Who was Timothy with? People that were morally abandoned. People that Paul himself had handed over to Satan. Look at 1 Timothy 1:20. How do you have such people around still? 1 Timothy 1:20. It says, concerning these people who have lost conscience, who have made shipwreck of their faith. Everybody read verse 20. Of whom is Hymenaeus, Alexander, whom I have delivered unto Satan, that they may learn not to blaspheme. You know, they have been handed over to Satan, but they will still be around you. And they're going to make life difficult for you. Morally abandoned, people who lacked, arguments. They like arguments to no profit. They don't like when the church is together. They will go and cause trouble. They will call the other brother and say, did you see the way he spoke to you? If it's me, I will not take it up. Are you saying that nobody must rise up and ask me? I'm going to ask questions though. They like arguments. No. It's not one-sided. Pastor, is from your own view. The Bible said they like arguments. Didn't you read in your Bible? They like arguments. Let's go to second, arguments that don't profit anything. And you see, that was where we read. Paul told Timothy, he said, if what you are doing, what you call ministry does not produce love in the sense, stop it. The purpose of our ministry is not to divide. It's not to get people on your side. It is so that love can be produced. If I know that talking to Sister Ann about so sister is not going to produce love, I stop it. That's what it says in 1 Timothy 1. Look at verse number 6. Everybody read. He said, from which, in fact, 1 Timothy 1:5. Everybody read 1:5. Now, the end of our command, the end of our job, the end of our teaching, the end of our service is what? Charity out of a pure heart. Oh, you are ministering, but your ministry is dividing the flock of Jesus Christ. Stop it. And such were people that were in that church. Whatever you call ministry, if it doesn't end in producing people who are growing in love, husbands loving their wives. You can't call a husband and say, if it's me, I can't take that thing. You mean you took it? No, that's not ministry. You go to the wife and say, you see, if I was your husband, I would be marrying you better. And when the woman goes, he said, you think you are a man? Go and consult other men like you. Now, did you produce love? But those people were in church. What they liked. Go to 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse number 18. 2 Timothy verse 18, 2 verse 18. It says, who concerning the truth, they have what? Heard. They keep saying that resurrection has passed already. And what do? They overthrow the faith of many. And you're a Timothy. And 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God has not given us a spirit of timidity, but of boldness, sound mind, and of love. Timothy wants to run. He wants to dodge. He wants to avoid it. He wants to evade. He wants to circumvent this assignment that is given to him. Remember where I read for you in Acts 20. Paul says, I know that among you are wolves. People will come into the church who are going to be wolves. People like Hymenaeus and Alexander. Gracious wolves. Grievous wolves, he calls them. Who will enter and will not spare the flock. Timothy, you're supposed to still be there and take charge. Men speaking perverse things to draw away disciples after them. Now, as a Timothy, you want to avoid people like that. As a Timothy, you want to avoid that. People who you necessarily don't want your body to touch them. You don't even want to see them on a Sunday service. When Paul was talking about them in 1 Timothy chapter 3, he says they want to teach what they don't even know. They have swerved from the truth. They don't have the same aim as we have. In 1 Timothy 4, I read verse number 1. Paul is going to talk about the same people. In 1 Timothy 4, verse number 1, he says, now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that are you there with me? That in the latter time some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing. One time in this church, one boy came and said, Pastor, don't you think we should actually look at this same thing? That a man may not really like a woman. It's a man that you like. I said, and he was permeating that thing in the youth fellowship. He wanted it to be a discussion point. Do we really have to judge them? Giving heed to seducing spirits. Timothy, I gave you charge. Stay still in Ephesus. Tell them, bid them not to teach such things. Withstand them. The Church of Jesus Christ is very important to him. They come and they say, do you really have to meet 3 times a week? Don't you think one service is enough? Must you really come here for prayer meeting? Must we have Wednesday service? You can't change it all. This is ancient stones that your father has left. Whatever you see is making Rhema Chapel work. We have our pattern. I told you when I came into this town, churches never were available in December. By December, because nobody wants to come to church, pastor will say, me too, let me go on holiday. They will lock the door of the church and go on holiday. I said, what? Go on holiday? Did the Satan go on holiday? Never goes on holiday. Giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Our sisters don't really have to cover all their body. No, let me say this to you. As minister in Rhema Chapel, as a worker in Rhema Chapel, we have our dress code. We have our dress code. You cover any area that can lead people to be distracted. You're not tempting them to evil. I tell the brothers and the sisters, your shoe must be covered. You don't come here with sandals. Even if all you do is you come with sandals, you change it there. Your collar neat, your tie, not with stew all over. Your skirt below the knee. You don't come with this thing above the knee. When you cannot bend. Whatever you're going to wear to come and minister, you must bend first. If you're comfortable with it, then come with it. But if you can't bend comfortably, you don't wear it as a minister in Rhema Chapel. They will give heed to seducing spirits. Can you stand such people? They are speaking lies in hypocrisy. People are just speaking like this, hypocritically. You see, Timothy, the kind of person he is, he says, I don't want this trouble. Speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a what? Hot iron. Forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meat. Verse 4, Paul says, these are people that are going to be in the church. Timothy, that I told you to stay still. But Timothy naturally, obviously wants to leave. Brethren, Paul will write about them again in 1 Timothy 6:3. Are you getting the light here? Minister, you can't dodge them. No, I like where everybody accepts me. Oh, welcome to the club. 1 Timothy 6. Paul is writing about them. He says, if any man teach otherwise and consent not to wholesome words, even the words of our Lord Jesus Christ, and to the doctrine which is according to godliness. Now look at it. He is proud. He knows nothing but doting about questions and strife of words, whereof cometh in this strife, railings, even some of his. Verse 5, perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds, destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. From such withdraw yourself. Timothy, you're going to have people who think. You see, I watched a movie of Jesus Christ, that the reason Jesus made Judas to be the treasurer was that when Judas, like every other persons, started joining Jesus' ministry, Jesus will lead people and they will go free. He said, what? You allow them go free? No, you can't do that. You mean you didn't collect money? I have that movie. Maybe I will bring it here during Christmas and we'll watch it. For every time Jesus did something, unless somebody, Judas said, no. How are you going to master money? So Jesus said, if that's your problem, at least so that you follow, take care of the treasury. People who think that people who come to church is the people they can go and extort money from. And because you are their pastor, they can't ask you to give it back. Oh, you go to this brother, they go to this sister. You are borrowing that money and you know you're not going to give it them back. For them, They think that gain is godliness. He told Peter and he told Timothy, you're going to deal with these people. Withdraw yourself from them. Know them for who they are. He says, but listen, Timothy, godliness with contentment is great gain. But they will say it to you. You mean the members are not buying you airtime? How much did they give you during your birthday? If it's me, I'll leave you all of them. By the time you get to verse number 10, he says to Timothy, he says, for the love of money is the root of all evil. You see, you have people in the midst of you who love money. They look at their brother and say, that your shoe should be on my feet. Why didn't you buy 2 pairs? Or didn't you know my size? My size is 9. The next time you buy, it's size 9. Now, do you think that Timothy, who is a beloved disciple, will want to hang in with this kind of people? He immediately wants to leave. But that's the church where his man of God says, abide still. Given the things I have shared with you, brethren, I want you to know the following. And I want you to write it quickly as I summarize my message this evening. The position God will put you is going to put you in the place of the following. I will give you maybe 10. The call of God upon your life. In fact, when Paul spoke to Timothy, he gave him an example of his own calling. In chapter 1, verse 12, he says, and I thank Jesus, our Lord, who has enabled me, for that he counted me faithful, putting me into the ministry. I was before a blasphemer, I was a persecutor, I was injurious, but you know what? I obtained mercy. He's saying to you, like, the ministry you have received is also something that God has put you into. Yes, I'm the one that put you there, but see it as your calling. It was not because I qualified. You think you need to qualify, Timothy? No. You think you need to have all that is necessary? No. It was God that enabled me. So the calling of God, calling upon your life, that office where you are put, is going to put you in the following situation. Number 1, a position where naturally you want to run away from significant and difficult issues, where you don't want to take authority, stand in the place of authority, where you don't want to pin your feet on the ground and say, we don't do this here. Remember, Paul was telling Timothy, he said, this is who you call to become an elder. This is who will become a deacon. I know some of you, let me not say some of you, some of us, you like pleasing people. Everybody will become a deacon. Because if you don't make them deacon, they will leave the church. If you don't make them ministers, so there is a church of 50, then 49 are deacons and ministers. 4. You're pleasing men. The office of deacon is something that comes out of necessity. But in this church, sister, they should have been calling you deaconess now. There's even nothing like deaconess. Don't let them swell your head. You know she's a deaconess. Okay. Ngwano, put her. Paul is telling Timothy, he said, where I'm giving you charge makes you take authoritative position to say, we are not going to do that here. Oh yeah, you must finish foundation and membership classes before we call you church worker. And if you don't finish, you're not a worker. And you're not a member, you're an attender. But people are not going to speak well of me. Then you are not a minister of God. The position where God's calling puts you will bring you a place where you directly confront opponents of God's work. Those who want to kill God's work. You face them directly. Brethren, what will it look like as a 30-year-old man in Ephesus and you're told how to handle women who are 60 and above? Read 1 Timothy 5. There are older men. In fact, some of the older men and some of them were even elders were the ones that were the culprits. How do you square them out? And some of us like avoiding it. You want to call them guy names so that they will love you. One, continue. If I reprimand him now, he is coming late and you are begging him. You are endorsing his nonsense, endorsing her nonsense. The calling of God, let me say this to all of us, we are ministers. You're a minister in training, is bringing you to a point where you are going to please men and not please God and not please men. Paul says, if I be a pleaser of men, I cannot please God. I want him to be my friend. I want her to be my friend. But you know that she has secret life. He has secret life, and you're endorsing it. You can't be a Timothy. You can be true in the real sense of a true son. So the first position you will probably encounter is that you have a position, and for every one of them I'll tell you the opposite. The first position is that you'll be in a position where you're going to be loved by quite a number of people. The calling of God upon your life. You are put into the ministry. A lot of people are going to love you. But can I say contrawise? You're also going to be in a position where you're going to be hated by a lot of people. The calling of God coming upon your life. Not everybody will love you. John 15, 19, 20 to 25. Jesus said to them, he said, they will hate you without a cause. But guess what? When Jesus was saying that, he was quoting the Old Testament. Psalm 35 verse 19, Psalm 69 verse 4, Psalm 109 verse 3. David was writing. You know what David said? David said, man of God, my man of God, why are you chasing me all over? What have I done? People will hate you whether you've done anything or not, because of the ministry you're put into. Concerning Joseph, 37 verse 5, 37 verse 8, the brothers hated him. Let me say this to you. If you are a person who wants to make sure everybody loves you and pecks you, then you're going to dishonor God. You're going to reprimand people. Not everybody will love you anymore. We all love everybody to love us. Is that right? But the calling God is putting you into, the office God is putting you to, brings you to a point where, because of what you stand for, because of what you're going to go against, they will not love you anymore. So get ready to lose some of those people loving you. Number two, the position, the ministry, and the calling of God puts you, is going to put you in a position where you will deal with some people you like, and you will deal with people you don't like. People who are chameleons. Matthew 15:9. They draw near with their mouth, but their heart is far. People who have irritating lifestyles, poor social skills, dysfunctional characters based on their background. People who are ambitious. Paul talks about false brethren. 2 Corinthians 11 verse 26. In Matthew 3:7, John will look at them and say, you are snakes. You are brood of snakes. Psalm 41 verse 9, you've heard about 419. It says, familiar friends with whom I ate from the same pot. You will deal with people who come to you. They look like they are with you, but they are not with you. You don't like such things. Timothy didn't like it, and that's what he wanted to leave. But by the charge you are given, by the calling of God upon your life, you're going to have to face them squarely. In Matthew 12:34, Matthew 23:3, Jesus called them generation of snakes. How do you think Mordecai lived out his life with Haman? How do you think Jesus and Herod were managing to stay in the same territory? What was it between Elijah and Ahab? What was it? Moses and Pharaoh staying in the same territory. You can't dodge it. You see, you better learn what to do now, or else you want to dodge it. But you see, dodging it means failing God. The calling of God upon your life, you see, the calling of God upon our lives, it differentiates you. Is a thing that draws a line. You're going to be in position where you go to places you like, you go to places you don't like. As a Jonah, you'll be called upon to go to Nineveh. As a Paul, You'll be demanded to go to Jerusalem, where bonds and afflictions will wait for you. As a Jesus, John 11:7-8, you're going to go back to Judea, where they picked up stones to throw you the other time. The disciples said, but they wanted to kill you the other time. Jesus said, what are you talking about? Are there not 12 days in a day? He said, I'm going to be busy. Number 4, the calling of God. And you see, as you're checking yourself, I want you to ask yourself, am I the type that dodges these things? The ministry that you're called into, the calling of God upon your life, is going to put you in a position where you will do things you like. But on the other hand, too, you'll be called upon to do things you don't like. Paul says, if I preach this gospel willingly, necessity is laid on me. Do I like everything I do? Do I like everywhere I go? Do I like everything I'm asked to do? Loving people who are unlovable. Going to places that ordinarily would not be in your calendar. Jesus going to the cross. Do you think he liked it? Was he smiling to it? Oh no. David going to face Goliath. Was it something palatable? But most of us, you want to run away. Demands and challenges that will be placed on you. And this was what was happening to Timothy when he says, when are you coming, sir? He says, stay there until I come. In fact, if I have not come, keep reading. If I have not come, this is what you got to do until I come. Another position that the calling of God will put you, child of God, is a position where God is for you, but it will also put you in a position where the devil is after you.